1. You are live, you are live.
Everybody, the lions have just called. As you came live, they've just called. You're on a live safari here. The lions, the dawn has broken, and they're just yelling their last before the day starts. I think they're just behind us. Let's go and have a look. My name is James Hendry. On camera today, 6'4" of Brian Joubert and his thumb, which is about 5'3". Same size as me. We're going to head round the corner and see if we can't find these lions. You are on a very live safari. It's wonderful to have you with us. It's 6:30 in the morning here in the Kruger National Park, well, the western fringes thereof, and we're in the middle of 8 million acres of untrammeled wildlife wonderland. That's 3.5 million hectares, depending on your bent. It's 12 degrees Celsius, apparently 54 degrees Fahrenheit. Feels like about -30, but that's just because I'm a little bit of a wimp when it comes to the winter. The lions have just been calling down here right now, so we're going to drive around quite quickly. I think they're in this drainage system or just across it. I've just missed the road because I'm so totally overexcited. Please do talk to us at any stage during this drive. Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter is the best way to do it. The other people out searching for things today include Stefan Winterboer, being filmed by David, and he'll be helped and ably assisted by Herbert, the tracker. Oh, big bumps. I'm just going to quickly call these lions in. I think they were calling just down here somewhere. There they are. Stations located 2 male lions at Djuma Dam. Animals are static. Isn't that wonderful, everybody? Let's hope they call again. We will get a little bit closer, but let's just bask in the joy of seeing them. Affirmative, 2 male lions. There's another one calling, that's why they've just looked. There's kudu alarm calling way off to the east. You can hear them going, bow, bow. Wonderful stuff. Yeah, definitely some big alarm calling off to the east. That's exactly what those lions are looking at. Maybe a leopard's wandering through the bush there. What a joy. Let's just sit here, everybody. We're about eye level with them. We can go round to the other side, but we've just got such a lovely frontal view of these two fellows before they pass out. What I think is interesting, I'm pretty sure these are the two Birmingham males. I'm 99% sure that they are. Look at the difference in mane colour. You've got a red head there, I guess, and across to the other side, a slightly more darkly grizzled maned one. Of course you can text, no, move in. And that dark mane is indicative of a greater level of testosterone. I'll tell you what, we are going to go a little closer, just because if they call again, I want to get the microphone as close to their vibrating hyoid apparatuses as possible. Should we go down in there, Brian? That might be quite nice. What do you think? Then they can look down on us as a meal. Hopefully not. Nobody wants to be a male lion's meal. No. If you're wondering why I appear to have an enormous chorb underneath my hat over here this morning, this is because Gendre has decreed that the microphones will now dwell under the hat. I don't, in fact, have a chorb. That poignance is my microphone. Hello, men. I might have to take a picture of you. That's rather spectacular, having them at eye level there, Brian, if not a little intimidating. Intimidated, Brian?
Highly intimidated.
You sound utterly terrified. Now they're listening, and hearing things that we cannot hear because their ears are so much better than ours. Ah, fantastic. We are so lucky to have this early in the morning. We can also largely because we don't have to drive around now, we can sit still in the cold. I mean, the light is barely broken on this area. So wherever you are in the world, I hope that you are enjoying the sight of two male lions in the morning. Certainly for us a rare joy. And thank you for your screenshots. This is a great angle to be looking at these things, of course, because they're basically sitting about 3 feet above us, which is fantastic. Normally we're looking down on them. Mimo, you want to know why I'm so quick and sure to say B-boys, or Birmingham boys? I'm really not that quick to say that, because I'm not actually very good at recognizing animals at all, and I just think that the chances of them being someone else are extremely remote, given that they are the right age. They look about 5.5 years old. And I think that I recognize them, but I might be wrong. They've got those scarred noses. In fact, that one, the blondie, is definitely, I recognize a pattern of scars on his nose. That's him there. Yes. Now, we are going to spend a bit of time here and just see if they don't call once more. Hello, Miss LeBeau-Bob. I think we haven't heard from you for a little while, Miss LeBeau-Bob. You want to know if these guys are from a larger coalition? Absolutely they are. They're from a coalition of 4 that used to be 5. One of them, unfortunately, has shaken off this mortal coil, passed on, is now X. We're not really sure how he died. We think he came off second best after a bit of a fight with the buffalo a little while back. But there are 4 of them now. I don't know where the others are, but there was one calling when we stopped there to listen. There was another one calling well off to the south. So I think they were responding to him. I'm pretty sure it would have been another Birmingham boy that they were shouting at. Right, now we're going to just give you a quick look from the dam camera. Now the dam camera, of course, is the camera that is, well, on the dam, isn't it, Brian? And you'll be able to see where we are sitting in relation to these 2 lions. And that's quite a nice picture. Have we got that up, Kirsten? And of course the Zoomy, who's controlling that camera, is very enthusiastically zooming in on the lions. Now that camera sits at about, I don't know, 200 and 150 meters from here, 400 times 3, 500 feet from here. My friend, I'm just going to go a little bit forward so that Tax can have a decent view. Rachel, you say these lions scare you this close, even though you're sitting in Maryland. You're right. Rachel, I don't think you should be afraid. You should definitely be wary. We always watch their behavior. And of course it is very easy to become massively complacent with lions, because they do tend to do so much of very little. And so it's easy to become complacent and think that they're not going to do anything, that they're just going to be sort of almost mindless and not pay any attention to you, but that isn't the case. And so it's a good idea to remain very vigilant of their behavior. But these chaps are not in the slightest bit affected by us. You can see they've hardly paid us attention. And now one of them's gone back to sleep. I'm really hoping that the new sun is going to just pop up as they call again. To hear them calling from this distance, I tell you, will be something spectacular. Although sleep seems to be their main thought now. You can see the incredible scarring that male has on his face, and that's because a male lion must fight. He must fight to take a territory, he must fight to keep a territory, he must fight to get food when he's at a kill with his brothers, or when he's with the lionesses that he's stealing from. But it's a life of a very physical nature, that of a male lion. He's got a luxuriant salon quality beard there, doesn't he, Brian? I wouldn't say it's quite as impressive as your locks, but I mean it is still not bad. They've heard something else, you can see there. What he's heard, I'm not sure. Hello, James in Springs. Nice question from you. So what keeps these lions from being threatened? It's the same thing that keeps you being threatened when you are walking down a street that is full of traffic. Although potentially dangerous, those vehicles could try, they'd obviously run you over if you sort of walked into the street. But because you're familiar with them, because you're familiar with what they do, how they operate, it's highly unlikely that you're going to get run over. Now, it's exactly the same thing with these lions. They are used to us, they know us. Well, they don't know us personally, but they're used to vehicles. And so they're not worried about vehicles in the slightest. And that's why they're not intimidated. But they're aware. I mean, you saw them watch us as they came up. They're also, the other thing with these guys, James, is that they habituate to vehicles so quickly because they are so confident. They're completely confident in their own ability. These guys are the dominant male lions of this area. They've got absolutely nothing to be worried about. Oh, here we go. Jerry, you want to know about the biggest prey that these two lions will be able to take out? Probably, you mean just on their own? Jerry, these guys will take out a male buffalo on their own. They are big enough and strong enough to do that. So, if they really wanted to, they could take out a big buffalo. But I think more likely that they would snack on smaller things, maybe a buffalo cow, or maybe an isolated sort of large nyala or large kudu, but they will eat impala. I think a lot of the time we think of lions being sort of killers of very large prey like buffalo and giraffe and that sort of thing. But in actual fact, they kill quite a lot of smaller things, but we just don't see it. So if these two were to kill an impala during the night, they would devour it before we got anywhere near them. And they certainly look pretty well fed. They don't look fat, but they look well fed. So Joey, yeah, that's what I reckon as far as what they could kill, but whether they would or not, I don't know. Now this chap, is this the chap with the mange? Yeah, I think it is. I think this is the fellow with his mange. Although he's got a very impressive dark beard, he's also got a case of acne. He's got a horrible skin condition behind his mane, which I don't think it will affect him too much. It'll just irritate him. You can see him He doesn't look very regal like that, does he, Brian? He looks like a sort of sleepy Labrador. Oh, he doesn't like being called a sleepy Labrador there. There's some baboons calling. They've spotted these lions. I just really hope they call again, but I think they've probably called their last, I'm afraid. Let's see. Maybe they'll call again. What do you think, Brian?
Well, I hope they will.
Quite possibly not. Right, while we wait and see what these chaps do, let's go across to Steph and get an idea of what he's going to be up to on foot this morning.
Good morning, and welcome to the Sunrise Bushwalk with myself, Steph. Dave's on camera, and aren't you lucky this morning to be with those lions? I know they kept us awake early this morning, definitely shaking through our rooms and making us cringe under our blankets. But have a look at this beautiful sunrise that we got going right now. We're looking straight west. We're looking at the Drakensberg escarpment, and have a look at the bushveld that's in the distance there. That's just getting the first rays of the sun. It's a chilly morning, I must say. Excuse my nose if it's a bit shiny, and my lips are a bit tight from driving out here. But we're right on the eastern side of Djuma right now, close to Cheetah Plains. And, oh, not Cheetah Plains, close to Torchwood on the Cheetah Cut line. I think Dave almost tripped over on that stick. And I'm planning on walking a drainage line this morning that I haven't walked in a long, long time, probably 4 or 5 months where I am now. It starts here somewhere. I don't actually know exactly where the terminal point of this drainage line is, but we're going to be going into it just in front over here. I don't want to keep you away from your lines for too long. I know James is dying to talk to you about them. See you in a little while.
Right, so there they are, everybody. There are the lions now starting to get moving. What a wonderful shot that is, of them just greeting each other and now heading off, seemingly towards the east. Let's follow up. This is fantastic. Right, we'll flick around quickly. Put my gloves back on before I freeze my hands to death. Right, we are practicing, remember everybody, for the TV. And that means we're going to do things like advertisement breaks. Of course, that is utterly meaningless to anything you're going to see. We're just going to have it in our ears, and I might practice sort of crossing over to an advert break, which will be totally nonsensical to you. But it is important for the TV stuff that we do. This is fantastic. Look at that shot of them there walking along the damn wall. It's fantastic. And this new camera of ours has got this lovely image stabilizer, which means we are able to show that to you while we move. Not so, Brian. Oh, look at that. Isn't that awesome? That's such a great shot. So we're going to go to an advert break in 20 seconds. Stay with us. The lions we're going to stay with. And let's see if they call again. See you soon. Now, obviously that's completely nonsense. We're not really in an advert break. Listen, here we go. Just fantastic. What an awesome sound. I don't know where they're going to go from here. One's going east, one is just over here. I suspect they'll follow each other. There's some elephants I can hear to basically to the right-hand side of where that lion is standing. He's not thinking about them. He is in excellent condition. He really is in very, very fine nick. Right, let's follow them through here, everyone. Hello, Pon. Pon, you're a new viewer, and it's wonderful to have you with us. You say, do we feed these lions or do they hunt on their own? Pon, we're in the middle of an open wildlife system, which means that there is no feeding of the animals at all. We watch them and we observe them, but they hunt for themselves completely. These male lions, of course, are largely sort of scavenging, if you like. They steal kills from other animals and from female lions. They're very good at stealing, but they hunt for themselves. We are here purely as observers, so we're driving around, we're watching the animals, we track them and see if we can find them, but there's no interference from us. Now, going that way, I'm going to try and get through this little thicket by going around it. Just going to keep an eye. They are still moving through there, and if we're lucky, we'll catch the golden light on them very soon. It is going to make a little bit of noise, everybody. Just remember that the noise is, well, it does sound worse than it actually is, and all of these trees that we're running over are generally popping up behind us, and if they aren't, they're often encroacher species. Okay. Now I'm going to welcome everybody back to the imaginary TV show with a replay, so don't be startled when that happens. You got them, bro? There we go. He's just moving through there, everyone. Bit of a noise here. There's the other one in front of us. There he is. Well, welcome back, everybody. You're live here from the Kruger National Park. The lions have been calling while you were away, so take a look at this. Oh, listen, here we go. They're calling again. It's just the one in front, the dark-maned one. Let's see if his brother calls. Let's get a little bit closer, so that if he does call, we hear him. Isn't that fantastic? Covey, we are following to Mobile East towards Gari Catline. You go again. Sorry, I've just got to be on the radio, everyone. Can't hear what's going on there. There they are. They're both straight in front of us there. Just very difficult to get a picture while we're moving, everyone. So we'll just get a quick look so that you can see where they are. And then I'm going to move again because I don't want you to... So we don't want to lose them. They are going to pop out on the road not too long from now. So I'll see if I can't find a route around. No, I think they are taking the path of least resistance. So I think we'll probably just stick behind them. They're just through there, straight into the sun. Just get a picture for you there as they go. Isn't that lovely? The light on them is so very beautiful. Okay, we'll try and get out now onto the road so we can get a picture of them before they cross into the drainage. I think they're going to go probably east into a very difficult drainage line area. Hello Deborah, Armchair Traveller, lovely to have you with us again. And you say, oh look, spraying. Right, you can just see the urine dripping off the tree there. And Deborah, that answers your question for you. You want to know why they're calling like this. They're calling like this, Deborah, purely because they're marking territory. I don't think that they sense other male lions. This is just what they do. It's a territorial boundary patrol, and they're just doing it with a great aplomb. Go again. Last station, go again. Yeah, copy, it's fuel. Thanks very much. So we've got a bit of a fuel leak that we'll have to sort out. Right, here we go into the drainage system. Now it's going to be very difficult to pick them up once they go through here, everyone. So I'm just going to park here. We might get what... Oh, here comes the other one out of the bushes in front of us. But this might be one of the last views we get of them. Maybe they'll go to sleep down here. That would be nice. Beautiful light on him there, isn't it? I can hear others calling now. Right, going north rather than east. That's a good thing for us. Although this chap next to us has got very tired suddenly. He does look like an irritated Labrador. I'm going to move forward. The other guy is going down into this drainage system. This fellow may or may not follow his brother straight or just walk parallel with him. So let's get in front of him. Try and get a nice picture of him coming past. Here we go. The other one's calling again. That's fantastic, isn't it? Yeah, I put it on. Oh, yeah. Just warning us. Okay, let's carry on. Now we won't be able to follow them in here, everybody. I'm afraid even walking in there is difficult. They may just continue on north, you know, so let's just try and have a look. But I think that's going to be it. Oh. What a brilliant... Brilliant sighting. Mike, go again with that position. Taps, sounds like very good news. Copy, just go with direction, confirm going north up Triple M. Okay, copy, I'm going to try and make my way there. Everybody. Shadow and her cub are heading towards Vuyatela. So she hasn't crossed over yet, but we're going to go and try and have a look there. That'll be amazing. So these lions have headed in here. We've got a slight fuel leak here. I'm going to have to get out and just have a look. The lions have disappeared down into the drainage line there, so I'm not going to worry about that. Let's go back across to Bushwalk and find out what they're following up on. Oh, sorry. She didn't say cross to Bushwalk. She said they have black screen with them. So hold on one sec. Yes, it's fine. It's just a loose hose pipe. We can fix that when we get back. As long as we don't throw any open flames towards the vehicle, we should be okay. Let's just... Alright, we're going to make our way there. Sorry, Elvis, at least, Mike or Elvis, can you tell me what exactly is going on there? Confirm she has crossed north into Vuyatela? Yes. Yeah, no, I understand that. I heard that 3 times. Can you just tell me where and is she crossed into Vuyatela yet? Okay, copy. So confirm she has crossed or she's still south? There's an elephant here. Okay, we're going to drive very quickly. Kirsten, I can't copy you. Did you say that Steph is ready for a link? Steph is ready for a link, everybody. Let's head across to him.
Right, now it's not only the lions like you've been watching that pose a danger to us on foot, it's also the little creepy crawlies, and they definitely what I love looking at most. Welcome back to the Bushwalk, and we found a little surprise for you. Hiding under this log is something that is of the insect world, one of the lions. Come and have a look here.
Okay, we're going to drive quite quickly, everybody, so hold on tight. For those of you who don't know, Shadow, a 9-year-old, must be almost 10-year-old female leopard by now, if not 10 already, and her cub, possibly the first that has, well, one of the only ones that survived this long, now 3 months old, just over 3 months old, so over the worst part of the dangers of being a little leopard cub. And we haven't seen her yet. I think Brent's seen her once, actually, so you may have seen her, but I haven't seen her or him yet, and I'm very, very excited to try with the prospect. So we're going to drive at great speed and great risk to our noses, which are now going to get chilblains, aren't they, Brian? Yes, chilblains. I'm just going to call in those lines where they've been. Stations, those 2 male lions headed east into the Molwati at Ongari cut line, unable to follow. Righty, here we go. Now, because Steffi's having a bit of trouble with his signal, I'm afraid you will have to put up with me every so often on the Game Drive channel, because otherwise we won't get into the animal sightings, and that is very important, of course. So normally what we would do is link away when, you know, the other presenter would show you something interesting, rather than you having to see us do the admin of the day. But Steph's got to test out the bushwalk in various different areas today, so yeah, I think it's going to be fairly dodgy as to the amount of signal he has. But we might be lucky. Sun has come out, Brian. It's a wonderfully beautiful day. Glorious winter skies overhead. Prospect of leopard and cub. Very exciting.
Very exciting.
And I know you're all excited to see Shadow and Cub. Get out of the way, Starling. It's much better up here on the crest. Now, Xavier, you heard that she had 2 cubs. I believe she did initially. I'm not surprised in the slightest that one of them seems to have died prematurely. That's totally normal. Probably only, I'd say, 3 in 10 male leopards get to independence, and probably only sort of 5 in 10 females. And Shadow has had particularly poor luck raising her youngsters. She is yet to raise a youngster to independence, the notable exception being Sindile. And for those of you who don't know, Sindile, now almost 2 years old, he went into rehab, so he had to spend 8 months in a rehabilitation center for a rabies scare. He's absolutely fine. They've released him again. He's okay and seems to be coming back into this area. And so that will be the first cub that she's managed to raise to independence. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised she's lost one of these ones. We don't really know why. One of the theories is that she's, for some reason, very unusually for a leopard of this area, does not hoist her kills. So she very seldom will kill something and take it into a tree, which means that if she does have cubs, they're under the constant threat of being eaten or attacked by hyenas. That said, we watched Karula the other day. She killed a male impala. There was a tree imminently close by that she could easily have dragged the cub into, but she didn't. And not the cub, it's the kill into. The cubs fed on the ground with her, so I don't know that that's necessarily the reason Shadow's been so unsuccessful. Elvis, come in. Elvis, what's your position now? Copy that. I'm on Philemon's cut line. I'll be with you in 1 minute. This is looking great, everybody. It looks like we're going to see it. I'm going to drive very fast, so hold on tight, don't spill anything. Evidence of elephants all over the place. We did have a very brief elephant sighting while you were with Steph for your 2-minute bushwalk, but we just carried on past them with the prospect of Shadow and little baby cub in the offing. Just to keep you posted, Karula has gone south again. Looks like she killed again last night, and she dragged her kill south out of our traversing area, and so she's fine. She's killing with an astonishing frequency. So doing a really good job. And of course, for those of you who are new viewers, the 2 leopards I'm talking about, Karula, a 12-year-old female. She is the mother to Shadow, who we're hopefully going to see now, and she's also got 2 little cubs, now 4 months old. Right, we're not far now, probably about 30 seconds away. Here we go. Sorry, I know this is very fast, everyone, but I'm just worried that she's going to go into some thick bush before we get a glimpse. Elephants have left booby traps all over the place. Hold on. Ow. I can see the other vehicle. And this is Elvis again. Elvis has found us some incredible sightings over the last few weeks. He has an incredible skill in the bush. I don't want to make a noise, obviously. We want to arrive quickly but then drive slowly once we are there. Can I make my way in, Elvis? He's lost her. Doesn't know where she is. We did see her here, though. Elvis confirms she went east? Elvis, do you copy Elvis? Confirm she went east? Actually, I don't think he's seen her. Elvis, andi gutu gahle. Awubonanga ingwelea. Sorry, excuse me one sec. Okay, so awukumanga mara vari ingenele. I'm just trying to find out exactly what's going on. I think somebody saw her coming in here, but Elvis has not actually seen her yet. I can hear squirrels behind us. Squirrels going crazy behind us. Can see tracks of hyenas on the road. So, I don't know. Let's just go forward slowly. Alright, let's go back to Bushwalk. Steph is up and running. Let's go back to him for now, and while I try and figure out what's going on here.
Welcome back to the Bushwalk. We're still trying to figure out all the little gremlins with the changes that were made yesterday to get us up and running again. But have a look at what we've got. We've got a snake skin. Now this is very fresh. I'm actually just looking at the branch that it's on to find out where the snake is, and I know it's fresh because it's still very soft. Now, as a young boy, I had a few snakes myself, and I know when my snake used to shed, it used to feel just the same. So I think this was done last night. Now, snakes shed because they get too big for their skins, and what they do is there's this oil that gets exuded, and I don't know if you can see it. It'll be a slight sheen on the actual skin. You might get it. I'm going to just twist the skin a little bit so that you can see that sheen. There we go. That's an oil that gets pushed out by the new skin and basically pops the old skin away from the new one. And then all the snake does is he literally hooks the old skin onto a branch just like this and will just pull himself off, and it comes off in one sheet like you're seeing here, and there you go. So it looks like a pretty full-grown snake. Here's the tail, there's the caudal segment there, here's the rest of the snake. Now Red, welcome, good morning Red. You've asked me what kind of snake this is. It's actually it's a good question, that Red. It's difficult to tell without obviously seeing the colors of the snake and the habitat that the snake lives in. But judging from the fact that this skin was found in a branch, it's actually quite a robust skin. It's quite a thick snake that you can see here. And then have a look at these scales that we found with a wide gape with a mouth. It's pretty wide, that. I'm going to say that this is probably a boomslang. But really what you'd have to do is count those scales on the head there. You can see those scales on its head. You have to count those scales, have a look at the pattern. So take a screen grab of that if you can. And then what you also got to do is have a mid-body scale count. So here's the mid-body, around about here. And what you do is you count the scales in a row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 scales in that mid-body scale count. So you count them in that row there. Now I get 15 scales, might be so between 13 and 15, let's say. So you've got a mid-body scale count of between 13 and 15 scales. You've then got the pattern on the head. So just once again, there's the scale pattern on the head. What you want to do is get a screen grab of that, and then using the mid-body scale count and then those patterns on the head, you'll be able to tell me what snake this is. Now, I don't have my snake book in my backpack, unfortunately, and that has all the mid-body scale counts in there and the back of the head. But if I were to take a guess, I would say that there's probably a boomslang. I don't think it's a cobra, and I don't think it's a mamba, but definitely. Now, Justin, you just asked me if the skin has a smell to it. It does, actually, funny enough. I wasn't expecting it to have a smell, but it does. It's got quite a musty smell. I don't know if you've ever stuck your head into a snake's cage, or in a pet store, that snaky smell. It's a musty reptilian smell. I don't quite know how else to describe it. Ooh, not very pleasant, I must be honest. And we're going to leave it just here. The snake skin itself has no further value to anything except birds. Birds quite often will come and pick up snake skins just like this and weave it into their nesting material. They don't need to do that. It doesn't add any strength to the bird nest whatsoever. But what they do is, I think it's just a bit of decoration, and it's a nice piece of filament. You see some birds in the cities doing it with bits and pieces of floating fabric or floating plastic as well. Same sort of thing. So no, don't know. Good. For those of you who are working on IDing this snake, you can absolutely send the answers to questions at wildearth.tv, or you can send it through to the hashtag Safari Live, and I'll share it with everybody once you've decided to give it in. Now, I was just asked a question, I can't remember who from, but I was just asked a question as to, are the snake's colors on their skin, they're obviously not carried through to the skin. It's obviously inside the scale, and you're 100% right. This is just a covering the skin. The scale that's underneath is the one that actually holds the color. As you can see over there, absolutely no color, just that faint sheen from the oil that was exuded. Nice. All right. I think that's that for that snake skin. Let us carry on, see what else we can find over here. It's the sun has finally decided to crest behind us, and I'm warming up my hands. Siberia Zumi is also watching this morning. Good morning, Siberia. You've asked me, do I have a favorite snake, or do I have a favorite reptile or insect in the bush? That's a good question, Siberia. I have a favorite animal. I quite enjoy honey badgers, followed closely by hyena. And then I'm going to say to you that I don't really have a favorite insect other than a jumping spider. I think jumping spiders are one of my favorite insects. Other than that, pretty much everything holds my interest out here in the insect or reptilian world. I'll stick my head into most bushes to go and find what I can find inside there, and take great pleasure from almost all of them. Definitely. Oh, I love combing through these bits and pieces of detritus that elephants leave behind. They can sometimes give you the most fascinating discoveries. This is a fairly old knobthorn. As you can see, the branches are busy breaking and decaying as fungus and whatnot makes its play. Quite often, just by detaching these pieces of bark, you get to see the most amazing things. Now, obviously, as a tree decays, it it actually starts to release a little bit of nutrients. That nutrients attracts insects. Those insects attract predators on insects. And then further, those insects also attract birds and everything else that comes to live in wood like this that's been knocked down by elephants. This is quite an old knobthorn kill, for lack of a better word. Very pretty, and is now forming the homes for many hundreds, possibly even thousands of organisms. James, good morning, James. You've asked me which insect has the longest lifespan out here. I'd probably say one of the borer beetles, or even the definitely the spiders. One of the spiders. I'd say the baboon spiders have one of the longest lives at 27 to 35 years. But you have some wood-boring grubs that live in trees, like this one behind me. They spend years getting enough energy to turn into something different, like a cicada, for instance. They can be anywhere from about 15 to 17 years, cicadas and some wood borers. The big borer beetles, the big giant click beetles, let me just think here quickly, shake the cold out of my head. The acacia click beetles, or the giant click beetles, any of your jewel beetles, they're all wood-boring grubs. They take many, many years, sort of 10 to 15 years to mature. Some of your ant queens and your termite queens, they are recorded at living anywhere from 17 to about 25 years. And then your baboon spiders, which are up to 27 to 35 years. So yeah, that's quite a long time in actual fact. I mean, we all think that insects are quite seasonal and that they don't live for a long time, but yet there are these grubs and there are these immature stages and the mature stages of some of these animals out here that definitely live a long time. As I walked up to this rus, I quite enjoy these russes at the moment. You've shared this many times with me on these safaris before, and these flea beetles that sort of just disembark as soon as you get close to these trees. Yeah, we have one here that hasn't quite seen me just yet. Oh, there's even one that's just landed on my hand. Have a look at that. So there's one that's just come back to the bush, flew away when I got back in here, and then all of a sudden jumped onto me. And you can see, there he is there with those quite overly developed, and I'm going to say grossly overdeveloped back legs, because it's very rare for beetles to have jumping legs. In actual fact, I don't know of another beetle on the face of this planet that has legs designed for jumping. Have a look at this. Let me bring it a bit closer so that you can see it in the light here. There we go. Now this little beetle is not biting into me just yet. They're sucking on these russes. And for those of you who have just joined the show, firstly, welcome to the show. Secondly, we see these beetles on just these russes. These little beetles, they make an egg. Inside that egg is a larvae, a beetle larvae, and that larvae is very, very, very poisonous. If you squeeze that larvae onto an arrow or onto a spear, you juice the larvae. In other words, you squeeze it softly and you put its juice onto the back of an arrow or the back of a spear. The local bushman tale says that you'll kill a buffalo, which weighs about 1,500 pounds, in about 40 minutes. Can you believe that? It's actually the closest we've ever been to a flea beetle, hey, Dave? Yeah. You can see those huge back legs. Now what I'm going to try and do is pull out a little bit for you, and then what I'm going to do is try and make him jump onto his branch. He's already landed on my hand, so I already have to take him off. So we might as well use the opportunity to see if we can get him jumping. I'm going to try and make him jump onto his plant. Boom. Go on. Now, how's that, eh? Jumping for a beetle. I mean, I don't know. You're welcome to try and see if you can find another jumping beetle while we're walking. And you can send your, obviously, you can send your questions through to questions@wildearth.tv, or send those answers to questions@wildearth.tv or the hashtag Safari Live. But in the meantime, I think James has got an update on what happened to Shadow and her cub, possibly, for you. Enjoy it.
I'd love to give you an update of Shadow and her cub, I'm afraid, but the only update I can give you, everyone, is that they are not where we are. And there was some extremely poor information given on the radio, largely because the different reserves, of course, don't operate on the same channel, and so much gets lost in translation between the different channels. And basically what happened is, we think she is on Vuyatela, she's on Djuma, but she crossed a long way to the west of where we initially thought she had, and that was about half an hour ago, so we're not sure exactly where she is, but we're going to look around here. Quite possibly in this block. She was heading in this direction. It's possible that she killed and went to fetch the cub and is bringing the cub this way. So that's what I'm hoping's happened here. There's no real other reason for them to be moving around together unless she's taking the cub to something specific. So either in here, she could have crossed the road up in this region somewhere and be in this block. So that's where we're going to have a look. Go ahead, F. Here is somebody coming beetling down from the other way. I think it's Ephraim. There's Elvis, who was also given some spurious information. Let's catch up with him. I hear. Njani kwalana? Yeah. Ankumanga mkonzo. Ukumi mkonzo. Oh. Okay. La. Tikingene la. Nditwe tiskurel tirila. Loku ndikuvitana le.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay. All right. So. So Elvis says that he did find tracks, and he reckons that she's come in here. So that's good news. And I heard some squirrels alarm calling just after we handed you over to Steph. So maybe she's in this way. We're going to go down the road towards the old hyena den. That's kind of the area where we thought she was. He's going to give his guests tea there, and while they're having their tea, he's going to go off on foot and see if he can't find anything. It's a fantastic tracker, is Elvis. Hello, Justin. I'm not entirely sure about the answer to this one, but I'm going to, I will defer it to somebody who will know better, perhaps one of our leopard experts. But, Justin, I think she's called Shadow because she was difficult to find. I think that's the only reason she's called Shadow. And Shadow, of course, a ubiquitous name for animals that are difficult to find. So I think that's what it is. Now the other thing is that I mean in the radio, in my ear, the Game Drive radio is going along. And Ellen, I'll get back to your question now. But basically, Karula and Shadow are hanging about in the same area. And it's possible that their tracks are being confused with each other's, but I don't think so in this case. Anyway, Ellen, you say, is it possible that Karula and Shadow's cubs have been fathered by the same male leopard? It's not only possible, it is highly likely. Tingana was the only male, or the most recently, the male mating most recently with both of them. And so it's highly likely that Tingana is the father of both George and Charlotte, who I've named Karula's cubs, and that is not an official name, don't worry, and Shadow's as yet to be named cub. So the last time I saw Shadow, and I haven't seen her cub yet, like I said, she was in here, and she was knocking about, and Viam and I watched her for a little while, and she walked behind a bush, and there were three of us trying to find her. She just disappeared. No idea where she went. So, I mean, there will be a massive amount of luck in finding this leopard if we do find her. It's warming up a bit, Brian.
Yes.
You can take one of your 46 jackets off.
I'll never.
Just one.
No.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Right. Brian, of course, and I, we both feel the cold terribly. Brian possibly even more so than me. And this is juxtaposed with Brian's insistence on wearing sandals or slip-slops, which means that he has his feet wrapped up in a very substantial blanket, which is quite amusing to watch. Anyway, we had a wonderful lion sighting today. Now, what we're going to do is just stop at the old hyena den here, and then we'll have a listen, see if we can hear anything else alarm calling, or perhaps see in one of the taller trees of this area a carcass draped. Although she's not, as I've just said to you, she's not very good at draping carcasses. Ah, that's quite interesting. Siberia, Zumi, you make the very good point that Shadow used to be known as Tingana, and that was until the male leopard Tingana came into the area, and then she was renamed Shadow. I'd forgotten that, yes. Alright, let's just stop here and have a listen and a look around at the binoculars and just see if we can't reassess what is going on here. I see a steenbok trotting off, unfortunately not followed closely by a leopard and her cub. I tell you, the first time that you spot a leopard, even if it isn't your first leopard, when you are looking through the bush like this or tracking on foot, when those little spots suddenly come into view and you realize that they're not actually just a piece of shadow or dappled light, it is a profoundly satisfying feeling. But at the moment, not a great deal of activity, so what we'll do, we'll reverse out of here and we'll head back up and go around on Finn's Road and see if we don't find something there. Steph has got the very last flowering flower in the winter.
Welcome back to our bushwalk here this morning. And for those of you who have just joined, I'm Steph, and we have found a crab spider for you. Now this flower-like crab spider is trying her very, very best to act like a flower in the hope that a bee or a fly comes and lands on her. Now she's got these very wide grabby legs. There's her front legs there. She's holding them outspread, and she will shoot these forward to grab a fly. Now what's the most amazing thing about these crab spiders for me is that their venom is keyed to completely immobilize something like a bee, which is probably bigger than what she is by a factor of about 2 to 3 times, immediately. So she will grab the bee, she will bite them with her fangs, which are located right there, and that'll immediately immobilize that bee and kill it. Now that takes a level of sophistication on that venom side that is just something absolutely incredible. And it's no coincidence then that the crab spiders that we find in this country, in actual fact, the six-eyed desert crab spider is the most venomous creature, or the most venomous spider that we find in South Africa, capable of killing a human being my size with no trouble at all, with just one bite. This, luckily, is not one of them. But come and have a look at another very interesting thing for me. I really enjoy these spiders because they've got such interesting...
Oh, everybody, I'm just disrobing. You caught me at an exposed time, but you haven't seen me with my head exposed to the sun, which is a very positive thing. And if I talk to you like this, it's because underneath my hat is my microphone. Thanks to Gendre, I feel like I have a small rodent crawling about on my forehead. Anyway, let's carry on. We haven't moved from when you last saw us. Just listening. Haven't heard any further alarm calls. I'm sorry that Steph's signal's a little dodgy, but he is in known dodgy signal areas today, just testing things out. But that's okay. So we're going to go round now to the northern side of this road. That's that way there. And we'll see if she doesn't pop out over there. While Elvis walks in here on foot. It's a really nice block, this, and this drainage line has got lots of sort of places where a leopard might stash a kill. It's got a lot of termite mounds where a leopard like Shadow, who does spend time on termite mounds, might sort of use to survey the area. It's warming up very nicely. And I think it'll probably hit about 26 or 27 degrees Celsius today. That's pushing 80 in midwinter. We're almost at the solstice, only, about a week away from the solstice. But it will still be very chilly for about 6 weeks after that. Whereafter it will become like a furnace very quickly. Justin, you want to know what a good breakfast for these cold mornings is? Well, bacon and eggs, I think, is the best possible breakfast. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, definitely.
Not a cold fruit salad?
No.
Um,
Cold milk in a cereal.
No.
Something nice and warm.
Nice and warm. And I know that we have been having porridge of late. There's been some oatmeal porridge, so those of you of Scottish ancestry will be most impressed with the porridge that we've been eating. I have avoided having the porridge because when I eat a bowl of oatmeal, you can perform open heart surgery on me thereafter because I become utterly anaesthetized by it. Some hyena tracks and elephant tracks around here. We're going to just do one loop around here. I mean, you can spend months looking for a leopard like this and not find her. There were some elephants around, so we'll go and have a look at them after this, and then we'll maybe come back here a little bit later. But otherwise, you're going to get very bored just watching me drive around and around one block. Gary, ooh, look at that. Bron, it's the white-crowned shrike that's flown away. That's starling. There we go. Good sighting, Brian. Marvellous starling sighting. Let's enjoy it. Gary, you say, does a leopard have a favourite tree that it likes to drape itself in? Yes and no. Not particularly favourite like you might have a favourite couch, but they certainly do have favourite trees that they operate in, or that you're more likely to find them in. This is actually a very good spot for us to just have a survey of this block. That bird that you're looking at is a Burchell starling. It's a juvenile. No, it's not a Burchell starling in the slightest. It is a greater blue-eared glossy starling or a Cape glossy starling. And you can see that from the fact that it is a glossy, obviously, and the fact that it has a yellow or orange eye. But all is now calm and silent. Nothing seems to be in a particular state of panic. And of course, when there are leopards around, people do panic. Right, Steph has managed to find some more signal. He's got a caterpillar to show you.
Thank you, James. We did find some more signal. We're definitely working through some of the gremlins still on this backpack for today. We've managed to make some changes yesterday. And although those changes have fixed one problem, they seem to have created some more, which isn't unusual. Don't worry. We'll get down to the bottom of it. Thank you, James. All right. And now that you were looking at that starling, starlings are insectivorous birds. Usually they pick up worms and caterpillars on the ground, but have a look at this caterpillar that we found on this weeping wattle. I just find that the forms that these caterpillars can generate in order to either look untasteful or distasteful or hide their shape is just incredible. The face of this caterpillar is actually over here, and the tail end is on that side there. I'm not going to touch this caterpillar, but I just want you to have a look. And the reason why I'm not going to touch it is because those hairs are quite irritant, and I don't want to get one on my finger and then rub my eye with it or scratch something on the side of my neck. As a young boy, climbing into trees very similar to this peltiforum, I was assailed by these hairy caterpillars at times, and they leave the most unbelievable swellings all over me. But just have a look at what you can while you can get so close with this awesome camera that we have on the bushback, and have a look at all those protuberances and those funny little tufts of hair that they have, all the fantastic colors that these caterpillars have on them. Now, they're not that color just to look pretty. They quite often are that color as a warning for animals around. Now, the hairs are one thing that says very clearly, don't put me in your mouth, I will stick in your throat and make you swell up. But the colors also tell animals that, or birds, animals, insects, other things, that this is distasteful to taste, or distasteful. Quite often these caterpillars, very similar to those flea beetles we were having a look at a little bit earlier, can synthesize compounds in their bodies that is either very, very poisonous or distasteful, bitter, leaving your mouth all dry. And that's what those colors that you can see there, the white and the black and the yellow or the orange and the red. Aposomatic coloring. Oh, there we go. I've actually managed to get myself out the sun there. See some of its colors and those funky tufts of hair that they've got all over the back and the body. Very nice. Been a beautiful morning this morning so far, to be quite honest. It's a very clear winter's day. I think we finally managed to crest out of our autumn. There's no real sort of official autumn and winter and spring and summer in South Africa. Just for me, generally, I always mark the first day of winter as being the 1st of June, and we come out of winter again on the 1st of September, where we have our spring. And then that lasts probably until about the 1st of November, where I mark the beginning of our summer. And then 1st of November to about the 1st of April is when I mark our summer, and then from 1st of April to the 1st of June again is my spring, my autumn, excuse me. That's just me. Matt, you've asked all the way from Michigan, and it's evening there for you still, while it's morning here for us. You've asked, do I have ladybugs here? Matt, yes, we do have ladybugs here. I'll see if I can find you one. I mean, they are pretty rare this time of the year. They tend to be quite summer orientated, but with us meandering through these bushes, who knows what we're going to find. I'll absolutely keep my eye open for you, Matt. No problem. All right, now looking underneath all these stumps, this is how we find you all those interesting little beetles and scorpions and spiders. We've even found 1 or 2 snakes lifting up these things. Now you'll notice how I lift up these stumps is I look carefully where I put my finger. I don't just want to put my finger anywhere, and I generally lift up a stump facing it away from me, giving anything that was living here time to run out away from me, not towards me. As you can see, not much living underneath these stumps. Now, watching me touch all these stumps and getting my fingers into all these nooks and crannies, I'm sure Anna Marie has asked this question because of that. Is what time of the day would be best to see baboon spiders? Anna Marie, when you're lifting up stumps like this, you could see baboon spiders any time of the day, but generally they are nocturnal. In other words, they move around at night time. And you find male baboon spiders in particular will wander during the evenings in summertime. In wintertime, generally these baboon spiders, in particular the males, are tucked up underneath stumps and pieces of bark like we're looking at. And why I keep on going about males is the fact that females are sedentary. They dig a tunnel into the ground, and when they become an adult, they lose the ability to dig another tunnel. So when they're immature, they'll dig a couple of tunnels, widen the tunnel that they've got. They may move to a different area. And they dig a tunnel probably about as long as my stick. So about, let me say 2 feet, can go down to about a maximum of about 2 feet. And these baboon spiders then live in about this much of the hole. They spin a web on the top of the ground, and then they sit, and as soon as an insect trips over one of their trip lines, they come out and grab it and go back inside again. And they don't leave this hole for their whole 35 years that they spend there. And that's a very old spider, of course, but still up to 35 years in captivity, some of these baboon spiders, or tarantulas, as you call them in your part of the world, are. Alright, let's have a last look underneath this stump just before we send you over to James. Nothing that I can see, which means that I can, without further ado, send you over to James for an update.
Well, that's not quite shadow, everybody, but it is a fork-tailed drongo. And a fork-tailed drongo in and of itself, of course, is just as important in the greater scheme of things, I suppose, than shadow. We're just sitting around here, a bit of a bird party going on. We're probably going to call this quits pretty soon and go off to see if we can find some elephants, which we did see earlier on. But we'll stay in the general vicinity, and then we might be lucky. We'll just roll our way slowly down here. Hello, Jenna Brown. I went on a date with a girl called Jenna Brown once. She was she was about a foot taller than me. It was never going to work. Anyway, Jenna Brown, I was going to assume you're not the same Jenna Brown. You say, what is my favourite bird? My favourite bird, Jenna Brown, is the Cape Robin. And I've told this story before, but when I lived in town, teaching the ungrateful children of the rich how to play the guitar, I lived in Johannesburg, which is not exactly a wilderness hotspot of the world. But the one thing that used to keep me connected to the wild was a little Cape Robin that used to sing outside my window every morning. And I didn't have an unpleasant time in Johannesburg at all, but there was a distinct lack of the wilderness, and the Cape Robin was my little touch point with the wild. And so since then, the sound of the Cape Robin and just seeing the Cape Robin is my favourite. But we don't get them here, so the nearest thing we have here is something called a white-browed scrub robin. And the white-browed scrub robin goes I'll play you the Cape Robin too. Just simply, we're going to stop here and listen very briefly. I've now got so much nonsense in this car that I'm not sure I can find my phone to play you the sound of the Cape Robin. Let me quickly play it for you while we listen out to see if there's anything alarm calling, or perhaps the telltale crunch of bones as Shadow and her cub devour something. This is the Cape Robin's call. Ah, yes. Takes me straight back. On a cold winter's morning in Johannesburg, this little robin would sit... Oh yeah, I need to point it to this microphone now. This little bird would sit on a sort of a green reedy thing underneath the garden tap, and it would sing like this. It was wonderful. There are some very undelighted francolins calling. They're quite far away. All right, let's carry on, Brian.
All right.
What say you?
Yeah.
I suppose I should... You know what? I'm being actually very remiss by not showing a picture of the Cape Robin quickly. In fact, I'll show you a photograph of the Cape Robin, everybody. You shall be so amazed. It's not the most spectacular bird in the world, but I think they're very lovely. There's one. Oh, come on. Can you see that at all, Brian? Or was the reflection too horrific? Hopeless, Brian. Brian is going to change a setting, and then you will see my photograph of the Cape Robin. This is purely because my ego wishes to show you the photograph that I took of the Cape Robin. You got it there, Brian? There we go. There he is. So not a particularly impressive bird, size-wise, but I enjoy him very much. Marvellous. Thank you, Brian. Well done. Well achieved. Let me just close that down. And off we go. Now, my phone, of course, is supposed to be on aeroplane mode, but I think I forgot to do that this morning. So some junk mail peddler has just sent me a message about funeral cover or some special offer. I also, I'm sure many of you get these around the world, but we get many SMSs out here from long-lost relatives who happen to live in Nigeria, and they constantly have come into great fortunes of money to which they wish to avail, to give to you. If only you'll just give them your bank account details and pay them just 5,000 Rand, you can make $1 million almost immediately. I don't know if many of you know what they mean, or have seen these kind of scams that go on, but we get lots of them out here. I don't think many people fall for them anymore, but obviously sufficient numbers of them fall for them for people to still engage in it. Let's pop down to Treehouse Dam. And we did see some elephants further to the east, and we'll go and see if we can find them again. Elvis and Ephraim are around this area, so they'll be looking for Shadow as well. Maybe something will turn up, maybe it will not. But I got to tell you, it's so tempting to just drive very, very slowly along here because the vegetation is thinning as the winter progresses, and so you can really kind of see into these blocks. I saw a branch that looked like a leopard that I know is not a leopard, but I'm going to have to look with my binoculars anyway. No, it's a branch, Brian. It's not a leopard. But there is the call of the black-headed oriole, which is also a very pleasant call. Particularly poor rendition of that call. Right, down to the dam we go. I do wonder where those lions have gone. I'm sorry we couldn't follow them for a bit longer in that golden light, but totally impossible to get into that drainage system in a vehicle. Oh. He wasn't very impressed that we drove straight past him, I have to tell you. He's got a look on his face that says, "What am I? Chopped liver." Hello, Beefy. Sorry to have driven past you. Very ungracious of us when you're standing there, model-like in the sun. Would help if you turned this way. Look at him ruminating quietly. Another night survived, unmolested by lions. Could you look here? We did stop for you. Come on. Did you see his whole body convulse there? No, you haven't got the whole picture. His whole body convulsed as he put a new bolus into his mouth to chew his cud. Here comes Elvis or Ephraim. Obviously no success at this stage. I don't know who this is. There we go, now the Beefy's looking at us. Say hello. Ah, hey, you coming, John? You go here, kui. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Inkom. Okay. Inkom. Enjoy your drive. So I'm just getting another update. He didn't have anything new to tell us, I'm afraid. Chewing, chewing, chewing. Now watch his body. When he swallows, it's actually quite interesting to watch. So just keep watching him. I know he's not a particularly astoundingly amazing animal in that he's not doing much, but just watch as he convulses and chews his cud. Watch his whole body now. It's so horrible. You know, vomiting, of course, is one of the least pleasant things a human being can ever do. But if you're a ruminant, you do it by default all the time, every day. Ugh. God, we don't have to do that. I imagine that the waves of nausea that come with us being sick don't occur here. And those teeth will grind and grind and grind away. And we've got a couple of examples of those teeth in the tent. And the enamel and dentine of the teeth gets consistently worn away. So the teeth have to grow continuously. There he goes again. Chris, this is an astounding question. You say, do people wrestle buffalo in South Africa? Chris, I assure you that were this animal to be wrestled, it would be the very last animal that the wrestler ever wrestled, because these chaps are not to be played with. They are very easily upset and very easily threatened. And although that buffalo looks about as docile as a sort of stuffed taxidermied animal, they get very cross very quickly. And quite unlike Daisy the cow, they will take you out at a moment's notice if they feel threatened. So were you to ever get into proximity close enough to grab a buffalo by its horns, I can assure you you wouldn't be coming out of it even if you were the best animal wrestler in the world. No. Chris, they are not to be messed with. Go ahead, Ephraim. No, I just saw Elvis. He said that the tracks, he thought he saw them on Philemon's cut line going north into that block. I didn't see them there, but I was live. So I'm just going to keep checking around this area. A couple of people now trying to follow up on Shadow. Alrighty, let's go to Treehouse Dam, see what we can find there. Chris, I won't be wrestling any buffalo anytime soon. You, Brian?
No.
No. And I mean, Chris, that animal, just to give you an idea, weighs 800 kilograms. That, if you multiply by 2.2, is roughly 2,000 pounds. So very, very large indeed. And we were talking about the Birmingham boys today, and I know that we saw two of them. One of them died, we think, as a result of an injury from one of those things. That buffalo will toss a lion into the air very quickly and very easily. A lion weighing up 200 kilograms, so 440 pounds, will think twice about taking on an animal like that. So I think a human wrestler or animal wrangler should think more than twice about taking one of those chaps on. Right, we'll have to go and check Treehouse Dam, see what's down there. While we do that, let's head across to Steph and get an update from him.
Welcome back to the bushwalk. And while you were having a look at that those buffalo, which are quite nice, we found a buffalo thorn. Now, while not as dramatic to look at, and this one is definitely dead, these ones definitely don't smell as bad. But why I wanted you to come through here is to have a look at this buffalo thorn. You can see that there's a hook thorn and a straight thorn. And if I turn it slightly, you'll notice that the tree follows a zigzag path, always away from the pointy thorn, not the hook thorn. And a very dear friend of mine, a tracker of mine, a guy called Richard in Duban, he told me that this tree is a life lesson. And if this is the course of your life, and these are decisions that you need to make, it's always best to learn from the mistakes you've made in the past to avoid the same mistakes in the future. And that's the way, he says, the path, or the tree of life, as he called it, goes through to its terminal point. Quite nice, eh? So just to reiterate again, the path of one's life is a zigzag, and at every zig there's a decision to make, and it's wise to learn from the mistakes you made in the past to avoid the same mistakes you make in the future. The tree of life, buffalo thorn. Right, but that's also not exactly why. That just happened to be where we were standing next to. But what's really caught my attention is this. This is a fairly fresh pile of elephant dung right here. And as you'll see, there and there and here, and here, all over.
Sorry about this, everybody. Perhaps something has pushed over the Gowrie repeater, just like the elephants have pushed over this marula tree. Our technical team is rushing around madly trying to fix it, and we'll be back with you as soon as we can. Sorry about this, everybody. Perhaps something has pushed over the Gari repeater, just like the elephants have pushed over this marula tree. Our technical team is rushing around madly trying to fix it, and we'll be back with you as soon as we can. Sorry about this, everybody. Perhaps something has pushed over the Gari repeater, just like the elephants have pushed over this marula tree. Our technical team is rushing around madly trying to fix it, and we'll be back with you as soon as we can.
So everybody, sorry about that. It's going to give me great pleasure to tell you what I'm now going to tell you. Brent Leo Smith is currently in the final control, and to his credit, he's trying to get hold of Arathusa. We're trying to get it, initiate a system where we can talk to them without actually having to be there. But he commandeered one of the radios in the final control and managed to seemingly destroy the entire stream. We're not sure exactly how he managed it, and I'm going to rag him, of course, consistently from where I'm sitting, knowing that he's totally unable to defend himself. He can just sit in the final control and steam as I blame him for what happened. Yeah, it wasn't really his fault. Well, sort of. It was, maybe. We'll leave it at that. Okay, no further signs of shadow. We're going towards the Triple M break, where we're going to find some elephants. Steph is still on bushwalk with the buffalo thorn.
Welcome back to the bushwalk. And if you've just joined us, I'm Steph, and we are walking around here live in the African bush, and we've got a puzzle. And it's a puzzle that even myself and Herbert, with all our combined experience and all our combined knowledge, can't yet fathom. We don't know why this is the puzzle. We don't know why there would be all this effort made by a dung beetle to make these dung balls and then just leave them. Why would these dung balls be buried in this dung pile and be left? Now, as I'm speaking to you, I'm thinking about what dung beetles are. They're classed into, broadly, 3 different types of dung beetles. You get dung beetles that make balls and bury these balls underneath the dung pile. Then you get dung beetles which bury their balls inside the dung pile. And then you get dung beetles which transport their balls from the dung pile away. So, again, under the dung pile, it's called an ectocoprid. Inside the dung pile, an endocoprid, and moving away from the dung pile, a telecoprid. And I think what we've uncovered, and this is just what I think we've got some endocoprids. This is a dung beetle that's buried his ball in the dung pile, and inside here is an egg. And inside this dung ball would be an egg. The larvae would hatch at some point, would feed on the dung that's compressed inside this ball and come out as a dung beetle. However, and this is the however part, I've never before found dung balls this size inside a dung pile. And so that's the puzzle. I don't know why. Why would a dung beetle spend all this energy to make a dung ball and then not bury it or not take it away, especially of this size? So good puzzles this morning. I don't know, I'm going to have to give it some thinking. If you want to join in my thinking, you're welcome. You're obviously welcome to send through whatever comments you have, or if you do find out something about that, send it through to questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag Safari Live, and I'll try and share it with as many of you as I can. Right, let's carry on going. Kathy, all the way from New York. Good morning to you, Kathy. Kathy, you just said you've never seen any guide show you an earthworm, and do we have earthworms here? We absolutely do have earthworms here, Kathy. They only really come to the surface where we can show them to you, though, during very, very wet days. Not only that, but they're also nocturnal. They tend to move around at night time, even when they do come out onto the surface, even when their tunnels have been flooded. Although it's not impossible to find earthworms, Kathy, all we need to do is dig to where there's water, and then we should find you an earthworm or two. Difficult, and not with this little stick today, I must be honest. this time of year. But yes, we absolutely do have earthworms here. As to showing you why we don't show you, generally it's because they're nocturnal for the most part and only really come out of their subterranean tunnels when they've been underwater for an extended period of time. Now, you might find that we sort of lackadaisically wandering through the bush here, but in actual fact, all I'm doing is I'm heading from clear patch of bush to another clear patch of bush, and then I stop and I scan the surroundings. We're using our ears and eyes and my senses to try and scan the bush. We don't ever want to become complacent here in the bush. The reason for that is because anything can be in this bush. Elephant, buffalo, rhino, lion and leopard, and they all pose a significant threat to us. So we're quite careful when we move through the bush like this. But on that note, and because Providence has given it to you, James Henry has an elephant he's just bumped into.
Well, indeed, James Henry does have an elephant, as does Brian Joubert, and therefore as do all of you. There is our elephant. And he is a massive, massive bull, probably about 500 feet from us. But every so often you can see him lift his great head. Here he comes. I think he's going to come towards us. I hope he's going to come towards us. And I reckon he's probably about as big as he's going to get. He looks like a well-old elephant, probably at least 45 years old. I can't see exactly, but we'll just see if he doesn't come a bit closer. You can just hear him breaking his meal, enjoying his enjoying his breakfast of sticks, I think it sounds like. But it's just turned into one of those beautiful winter's mornings when there's a little bit of nip in the air, but the sun is warming us, and I've no doubt that that elephant is enjoying the sun almost as much as we are. Beautiful. And of course this time of the year, a challenge for all animals, but especially a big animal like this, It's not easy for him to find sufficient to eat. And of course, he's got such a massive mass to maintain. Here he comes. Weighing in at 6 tons. You can hear you might not be able to hear it, but there's a great deal of crunching going on, and that crunching, of course, is because he is moving bark or stripping bark from probably bits of combretum wood and roots. I suspect he's probably pushed over one of these red bush willow trees, and he's now sort of stripping the roots. They tend to enjoy the root bark and the outer edges and cambium layers of the roots. And cambium layers, of course, the vascular tissue of the plants, carrying water and sugars and various other minerals. But you can imagine, I mean, you've all stripped a piece of bark before, and you know that I mean, there's not a great deal of flesh there before you hit the dead wood. And so it's not easy for an elephant to get sufficient to eat from that sort of thing, and it's why they must continually eat all day long. A big fella like this eat up to 300 kilograms of food in a day. That is a massive amount. That's 660 pounds. But he doesn't look like he's going to come any closer for now. But let's just sit here and see if he doesn't pop out. Because it does sound like there's some other elephants quite close by. Keeps looking like he might step forward, but I think he's behind what he's eating. Oh, he's streaming from his temporal glands there, I see. So something's got up his nose. He might be in must, he might just be irritated, he might be nutritionally stressed. He's had a fight with a lady. Causes me to stream from my temporal glands. Justin, your question reminds me of a cartoon I once saw by, I think, the late Gary Larson. I'm not sure if he's still alive, who used to write The Far Side. And you want to know if we could, would we put a collar on, and if there was such a thing, and of course this is just a thought experiment, if there was such a thing that could translate animal calls into English, would I do that? And if so, what animal would I put it on? It reminds me of this cartoon where some sort of a fictitious scientist did just that, and he designed something to put on a scientist's head, and then he would walk down the street and you could hear what the dogs were saying in English. And I don't know if I'll describe this correctly, but you had the speech bubbles coming out of the dogs going woof, woof, woof. And then the translation of that to the scientist was, hey, 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 hey. So they weren't saying anything at all other than hey, hey, hey at each other. And I don't know why that makes me think of this. I think elephants say a lot more than hey, hey, hey. And I think were we to have a collar that could translate elephant dialogue, I think it would be amazing. And just on that, Justin, you know, they've identified at least 35 or 40 different calls that elephants make. Now, what's interesting to me is that apparently only 5 of those are made by males exclusively, and about 20 of them are made by females exclusively, which means, as in our own species, and I don't mean this in any way to be a sexist comment, the females communicate with each other a great deal more than the males do. And I just think that is really quite interesting, because we know in our own society that men tend more to silence, I think, or they don't tend to more to silence, they tend to, I guess, slightly less social interaction, slightly more distant social bonds than do women. And then so often I find that elephant behavior mirrors our own. And if you watch elephant societies where the bulls, yes, they form little groups, but then those groups are kind of temporary and they go off and the lone bulls knock about on their own, and the females live in these closely knit matriarchal societies where there's a real close affection and frequent communication between the females of the species, and I think that's relatively similar to our own. So that, in a long-winded way, Justin, yeah, I suppose addresses the possible issue of a collar able to translate elephant speak into English. I often wondered, these people who say they can speak to animals, and I'm not for 1 second saying that they can't, but how it is or in what language the animals talk to them, or how they get an understanding of what the animal's saying. I mean, what happens if it was a leopard that grew up in India, for example, and you didn't speak Tamil or Hindi? Would you be able to understand what the leopard said? Brian?
Maybe.
Maybe. Come on, come out here, elephant. Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Sharon. You say that Gary Larson is not dead. That's brilliant. Has he retired, Sharon? Because I cannot remember seeing a cartoon from him, a new one, for many, many years. And if you don't know what The Far Side is, everybody, by Gary Larson, go and have a look. And Safari Dean apparently has posted that that dog and scientist with his dog translator head on Twitter. Check it out. It's hashtag Safari Live. Hey, 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 hey. And he retired, gee whiz, 11 years ago. That's quite, no, he didn't, 21 years ago. Lucky old him. Alrighty, I don't think this fellow's going to come any closer to us. I think he's far too intent on his bushes. So let's go forward, see if we can't find something else. Marvellous sighting, that. Love seeing an old bull like that. It's so peaceful to watch an elephant bull just feeding quietly. Now there's an oriole called... Oh, we never see these... Oh, you stupid bird! There it goes! We never see them out in the open.
I had it a little bit.
Did you have it a little bit? Oh, well spotted. Anyway, while I get over the recalcitrance of that black-headed oriole, let's head across to Steph and get an update from him.
I must say, I have much empathy for James. I really feel his pain. Him and I have the same sort of repellent nature to things that are around us that are generally considered of high safari value. And, you know, James and I live the same pain every day. That's probably why I like these smaller things. They can't run away or fly away as fast. Now, we've got another riddle. And what this riddle is I know exactly what made this. This is a bagworm's home. Now, bagworms are caterpillars that build these funny little homes out of anything that they really find in the area. They're then suspended by some silk. Let me see if I can twist it so you can see the silk. They suspend their home from a silken thread. You can see that it wobbles. They generally always wobble like that. And they have the entrance to their home at the bottom. That is where the entrance to the bagworm's home is. Now, he's obviously in this cold weather. This bagworm has closed up the entrance to his home. But here are two things that I have as the riddle. Here's my two questions this morning. Is that, A, this bagworm seems to have used a lot of very tight silk to bind his home together, and I'm unable to decide what his home is made of. Generally, bagworms build their homes out of sticks and thorns, and those are attached to his silken home on the outside as a sort of plastering or as a sort of tiling on the outside of his home, and that gives it protection and rigidity. This particular bagworm looks like he's made his the substrate that he's made his bag out of on the inside and then covered the outside with silk. I don't quite know why. I don't know if these sticks have fallen off, and I don't know what bagworm did this. There are many bagworms around the world. You probably have, where you stay, you have a whole variety of bagworms. So where you are, you can go and research what bagworms you have. And perhaps one of your bagworms has a very similar bag to this one. Now the other question is literally just to fill in my ignorance. I still don't know what bagworms eat. I have a feeling that bagworms are carnivorous worms, that they catch prey and eat them. I have a feeling that they are carnivorous. However, I don't know that they're carnivorous. So you're welcome, if you want to, obviously participate with me in this. I'll share your answers with everybody here. Send your answers through via email on questions@wildearth.tv, or share it on the hashtag Safari Live, and I'll obviously give you whatever answers I can find. Anyway, let's carry on. We're finding a lot of interesting things today. Dave, I think carry on with that. I'm going to go around here. Leopold has just asked me, good morning Leopold, sorry. Good morning Leopold, you've just asked me if I'm more cautious around poisonous spiders than anything else. I think I have a healthy respect for poisonous spiders, Leopold. I also have a healthy respect for poisonous snakes. I don't touch either. So I won't touch a poisonous spider with my hand, I won't touch a poisonous snake with my hand. And because I've got a little boy, I don't tolerate them in my house. I know it sounds a bit weird, but poisonous snakes we remove out of the house. We have a pair of grab sticks, tongs, and poisonous spiders, if I can remove them with a piece of paper and a glass, by putting the glass over the spider and then sliding a piece of paper in underneath to then take it outside, I try and do that. I don't tolerate them in my house. Almost any other organism is welcome to live in my room and my house and my backpack, just those two not. And obviously a good question now would be why. The why is that for many of these species of snake and for many of the species of venomous spiders out here, there is no antidote. And if you get bitten, there can be some dire consequences. You can lose functionality in your limbs, you can have respiratory and heart problems for the rest of your life. And I'm definitely not keen on any of those things just because I want to poke something with my finger. So hopefully, Leopold, that answered some of your questions. Now Dave, watch out for this. This is what they call a wait-a-bit bush. And
Look at that, everybody. It's a red-crested korhaan, stunning example of a male, and of course it doesn't have an obvious red crest, and that's because it only extends that crest when it is in the midst of trying to attract a lady. Like most of us, keeps our best for when the ladies are around. Not so, Brian? Mm-hmm. And it makes the most amazing display. The male, what he does is he's known as the suicide bird because he starts going, he goes, and he flies straight up into the air, folds his wings and drops to the ground. And if he's very clever, he'll open his wings before he hits the floor. But some of the young ones apparently ain't so good at that, and they they forget to open their wings, and then they get a headache. A bit like Brent Leo Smith falling out of his tree yesterday. And now many of you wouldn't have seen this, of course, because this was during our rehearsal. But Brent situated himself in that big torchwood tree that many of you will know, Nicky Alston's favourite tree, and there he was sitting, perched like a like a sort of an explorer of old, surveying the landscape. And unfortunately his descent was rather amusing, because he slipped, and then uncontrollably his face went pale white, his mouth dropped, and he fell out of the tree. And we did a slow motion replay of this whole thing, and the poor fellow fell. I mean, he's very lucky he didn't damage himself, but he fell about 3 meters, which is about 9 feet. And if you would like to have a look at it, well, I think you would like to have a look at it. So here he is. So that was a little bit like the human version of the red-crested kohan, making a territorial display, and he forgot to open his wings, clearly, when he hit the ground. Now, I don't know how he managed not to hurt himself there, but it's quite impressive. It says quite a lot for his athleticism, I think. Anyway, let's carry on. I'm giving up in this area of shadow. We're going to go off to Buffelshoek Dam and see what we can find there. Those lions were heading that way. We did have, Jamie of course had those 2 lionesses there yesterday morning, and then 1 lioness yesterday evening with the 2 males. In fact, there were 2 lionesses I think yesterday evening as well. And one of them, she is convinced, was about to give birth, and I certainly wouldn't disagree with that in the slightest. So maybe we'll be very lucky. Let's go and look. We're on the southern boundary now, and apparently Karula crossed to the south just ahead of us there. Sandy, a lovely one from you, and a very sort of, I mean, I don't want to say common, but a very, it's a very human question, this, obviously, but it goes to the sort of crux of our nature, I think. You say, are there any examples of animals of different species joining each other and sort of having some kind of form of companionship? And I think that comes from the fact that we like to do that, don't we? We love to have some form of companionship with animals, and I find that amazing, and I'm not sure what the reason for it is, why we have this enjoyment and desire of a relationship with other species, but it is fascinating. I don't think there are many animals that have it. I think there are a few examples that tend to be anomalies, and I mean, you get the most obvious example out here, I guess, would be a wildebeest bull, for example, living with a herd of impala. And that bond is a bond of convenience. They do it because it's good security for the wildebeest bull. I'm not sure the impala get too much out of it. Then you have that kind of symbiotic relationship between mongoose and there's this drag mark, between mongoose and hornbills. Oh, look. So here's where Karula crossed out. Sorry, Kirst, you'll have to go again with that. And you see the drag mark there. There's the drag mark, everybody. Karula's killed something and she's wandered in here. Whatever it is now feeding her and her little babies. I wonder how far she'll be from this very position, especially given the fact that those cubs are now completely mobile. There's a marula tree through there to which this drag mark goes, and if we can get a view of it, I wonder if we're not... Just give me 1 second here, everyone. Let's just keep an eye, because we have the super zoom camera, and we might be very lucky. We might just be. We'll keep a lookout through here. So I was just talking about the mongoose and the hornbills, and they do have a relationship with each other. in so much as, you know, they hang around together because it's a marriage of convenience. The mongoose dig things up that the hornbills can eat, and the hornbills kind of play a security guard role. No, I don't see anything. They're not far from here. It's going to be worth driving up and down this road every so often, just having a look-see. Ah, there they are. Well, there's a vehicle looking at them. Whether we'll be able to get a view or not, I don't know. You see the car in there, Brian? You know what? They're not on the termite mound. Sorry, let me go forward. Just pound that zoom lens onto the termite mound there and see if there's anything there. Niggies. But they may well use that as a little sort of play spot. That is so dreadfully tempting to become a trespasser right now. The vehicle's moving. They're just the other side of this mound. The vehicle inside there is moving, and they're all kind of looking just to the right-hand side of the mound there. Anyway, I don't think we're going to see them. Unless she's moving. Sorry about that. That was very close, wasn't it? Could have been great fun. Anyway, in terms of an actual bond, though, Sandy, no, you know, in the wild, it's so I don't think it happens. You get these anomalous things where, like, a lioness will kill a baboon and then adopt its child for a while. Normally, the child will then be, or the baby will then be eaten by another member of the pride. But very few interspecific bonds where animals actually actively live with each other. You know, there is one. I've got a really good example of one. There was at Mombo in Botswana, which is in the Okavango Delta. Other way around, the Okavango Delta, which is in Botswana. At Mombo, they had a single wild dog. She was lonely, and she hooked up with a little pack of black-backed jackals, a pair of them, and she used to live with them, and they did have an affectionate relationship where they would greet each other. She would greet them like a wild dog would greet, and they would greet her like like jackals would. I mean, they're relatively closely related, and certainly couldn't interbreed with each other. She would go off hunting, she'd feed the adults and the cubs, and at one stage they had a female hyena as well that joined the group. She didn't have an affectionate relationship with them, but she certainly used to hang around them quite a lot. Maybe just to scavenge, but it may also have been for the company. Who knows? There's a really good example of it, Sandy. Right, so we're going to go off to Buffelshoek Dam. There are apparently elephants at the waterhole camera. We're sort of equidistant between Buffelshoek Dam and there, so I think we'll go to Buffelshoek first, have a quick look for the lions, and then we'll see if we can't bash back for the elephants. That will be quite fun. It's today Wednesday, Brian. It's not a bad way to spend a Wednesday afternoon, a Wednesday morning. No. And many of you, thank you, you thought it was very funny watching Brent fall out of his tree. I thought it was very funny, but like most of you, you say, what about his hip? That was precisely what I thought when I saw it, because he lands quite heavily on his feet. But his hip seems to be fine. I haven't seen him this morning. We'll find out. I think today will be the clincher. You know, I think he was warm and full of adrenaline yesterday, so he was fine. But today we'll see if he's damaged himself. But he's unusually naturally athletic, is Brent, so I think he'll be fine. Right. Stefan has managed to find a predator of some sort, a poisonous, venomous predator that is dead.
poisonous, venomous predator that is dead. We're talking about unlikely associations. Have a look at this bush that we've just found here. This is a common sparkthorn that is just jam-packed. But what you're looking at over there is something that I've very, very rarely seen before. Have a look at the scorpion that's tied up in the web right here with the spider that killed it right next to it. Have a look at that. Isn't that amazing? So what's happened is the scorpion has climbed into this tree, this tiny little tree, to look for some prey, got tangled up in the spider's web. The spider then took great advantage of the sting not being able to be effectively deployed against it and bit the scorpion and obviously injected a toxic enough amount of its venom to kill the scorpion. And now is feasting on the scorpion. A massive, awesome meal for this spider. Now, spider venom will do two things. Spider venom, when it's injected, not only does it get injected by these two big fangs, which would be like me sticking my stick into Dave's torso, but also the fact that the spider then envenomates the prey, which immobilizes it, in this case killed a scorpion, and in the second case starts to digest the inside of the scorpion's body, which then liquefies it, allowing the spider to use its mouthparts to then suck out the juice of the liquefied body. And that is exactly what's happening at the moment. That spider's probably needing some time to liquefy the insides of that scorpion's body. But isn't that just incredible? That's very, very worthy of a screenshot. So if you can take a screen grab, absolutely, please take one and send it to us. We'd love to share it. You can send it to email via questions@WildEarth TV, or you can send it or post it, I think, on the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Yes, that was now a find this morning, eh? Spider killing scorpion. Now that scorpion is a baby Europlectes olivaceus, or the olive thick-tailed scorpion. That scorpion there, when it gets a little bit bigger, stings a child younger than 6 years old or someone with a heart condition. It's actually strong enough to poison us. Can you believe it? It's actually strong enough to do us some harm. That's how venomous that little scorpion is. And that little spider, its venom just managed to kill that. Nice. Another thing that's on this particularly productive plant is this very interesting caterpillar. Have a look at that bizarre head on that caterpillar. Isn't that the weirdest thing you've ever seen? Now, I don't know what caterpillar that is. To be honest, I have actually seen this caterpillar in my moths book. I just cannot for the life of me remember what moth or butterfly this turns into. But that very, very characteristic face or head on this caterpillar is what is giving it away. Oh man, this is just such a cool finding. Alright, looks like something out of an alien with some mask on it. Back to that view. Lots of things going on in this bush.
There is a Batalua, everybody. And he's very unfortunately silhouetted by the brightness of the sun. But still, he's a very pretty fellow. I was going to take a photograph, but I'm afraid the light is too much behind him. Can't tell if it's male or female from here. Hang on a second, maybe let me just look with my binoculars. But he's very, very confidingly sitting there, and there's a pair of them. That's Mrs. Batalua. There's a pair of them that lives around here, and we've seen them with a juvenile many times, who I think is struggling to leave home. Probably about a 4 or 5-year-old bird. Not quite with adult plumage. That is the adult though. You can't really see it, but she's got quite a lot of brown on the back of her wings. As I say that, I'm just going, oh, there we go, Brian, the usual story. Very nice, very nice. Usual story, for those of you who don't know, everybody, is that as soon as I see an animal, it feels the need to void its bowels, which is offensive, I think. And Mrs. Batelier of Leadwood is no different. I say Leadwood because that's the road we're on, and they have a nest pretty close by to where we're sitting now. She's just surveying her domain on this Wednesday morning. Feels almost Sunday-ish. It feels so lovely and relaxed out here. But it isn't Sunday, is it, Brian? No, no, no. Stunning. Let's just try and see if we can't get around her, and then we can get a better look at her lovely red face. Oh, hang on, Ephraim's calling me. Go ahead, Eph. Ah, okay, copy that. Thank you, F. Well done. Ephraim just said he followed the tracks of Shadow. He found the tracks, but they've crossed back into Arethusa. So we're a bit far from there for now, but we will definitely try and find out what's going on there for the afternoon. Right, on we go. It's interesting that she did that because she had the baby with her. You know what? Maybe she crossed. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm sick of trying to guess and then being proved horribly wrong. There's a better view of the Batelier. Mrs. Now you can see she's a Mrs. here. Well, obviously not quite yet. But papow. Now you can. Because of the brown all the way to the bottom of her wings. James Richard, do you want to know how many of the birds of prey out here are territorial, and who has the largest territory? As far as I'm aware, most of them are territorial, but the one with the largest territory is the Martial eagle, and unsurprisingly the largest eagle, and they have a territory of approximately 150 square kilometers. Now that's just shy of 100 square miles. And so, I mean, one pair of Martial eagles will cover the extent of Arethusa, Cheetah Plains, and Juma and surrounding properties. And that's why we don't see them that often. But about 150 square kilometers, 15,000 hectares, or what's that, 35,000 acres. One territory for one pair of Martial eagles. All right, Mrs. Batelier, you've given us probably all you're going to for the day. Let us go along to Biffle's Hook. We might be lucky and find those lions there. Who knows? All right, let's go, Steph, and get a quick update from him. We're going to drive quite quickly for the dam.
We're actually still in this area with this very funny caterpillar and this spider that's managed to catch the scorpion. We haven't gone anywhere. To be quite honest, this is actually quite an amazing sighting. For me so far, sighting of the day. For those of you who have just come back to the bushwalk, we are on foot, live, in the middle of Juma Private Game Reserve, right on the western edge of the Kruger National Park. Some 8 million acres of wildlife and Big Five country, basically. And we're on foot, We're far away from everything, and what we've done is we've found a spider that's caught a scorpion. Now we just want to show you again, only because it's just so amazing. And for those of you only joining us now, I'll give you some time to share. Alright, I'm going to try and reveal it to you over there. There you go. You can see the spider has now moved slightly with me just shaking that bush a little bit. But you can see her legs sticking out the top, just above that scorpion that's now suspended in her web. And I have no doubt that the scorpion was unintentionally caught. The spider did not hunt the scorpion. I think the scorpion blundered into her web. What was lucky for the spider was that the scorpion's tail probably got caught in the web, and she was able to approach the spider from the side, staying away from its pincers, and envenomate it. That would have caused the scorpion to die, and then she was at leisure to sit and feed on this most brilliant meal that she's got for herself. Additionally, we've also got this awesome caterpillar that's on this leaf. Have a look at this caterpillar. Looks like he's got a mask on. Green caterpillar. I have no idea what butterfly or moth this turns into. But I have seen this before. I just have a memory, a vivid memory of my butterfly book having a picture of one of these caterpillars in. And I definitely at breakfast this morning are going to pull out my reference book when I get back to camp and go and have a look for what this is. First one I've ever seen though. I mean, I've been doing trails in this part of the world for the last 17 years. And I can't actually remember ever having a sighting where I've seen a scorpion caught by a spider in a web. You do get certain spiders that hunt for scorpions. The solifuge arachnids, they're not really true spiders, but they look like spiders. They definitely hunt for scorpions. A solifuge or a sun spider, the most grotesque looking insect that you can possibly find. Go and have a look at one when you get a chance. And then that little caterpillar I also haven't ever seen. So this is a first for me. You joining me from wherever you are in the world for perhaps the first time, maybe a couple of times you've been watching me over the last year or so, but I've been walking around here for 17 years, never seen what we've seen on this little bush. And just to give you an idea of what's happening on this little bush, we're going to take a step back, and you can see that this is probably the only bush in a couple of yards to either side, standing in the middle of this open area, and you've got all this action happening on it. Wonderful, eh? Amazing what's happening in all these bushes around us. I mean, it just makes me want to stop and just sort of stick my nose into everything here, but that would be incredibly boring for you to watch. So we're going to carry on walking down this game path. We're actually on a game path here. Now what a game path is, it's a path that animals use from an area to another. By Right, here are their footprints. I'm going to demark. We have got impala. This is an elephant that's walked on this game path. That's
Sorry about that, everybody. We're on our way to Buffelshoek Dam. I'm afraid I'm going to have to remove this microphone from the top of my head because it is now starting to dig into my bony skull. There we go. Oh, it doesn't have its clip on it anymore. So I'll just stick it to my face.
Yeah.
How's that? Was that the good spot to have it like there? You got some gaffer?
I do.
Where is it? Is it here? Here we go. Sorry about this, everyone. It was digging into my skull. It was very unpleasant. But it'll be much better now. How's that?
Yeah, that's great.
Is the audio good?
Yeah, it sounds very good. It's
Crisp and clear.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Right, on we go. I'm like Britney Spears in concert. Just better looking, yes. I'm glad Britney doesn't have facial hair. She'd be infinitely less attractive. We're still driving towards Buffalo Dam, everyone. I'm truly not sure what to do with this microphone. I suppose I could just gaffer it to my clothes rather than my face. But you see, you can't see my face unless I look at you. If I look at you like that, you have no idea that I have a fluffy thing attached to my face. Now the lions this morning started heading east from over there, and so with any luck we'll bump into them again. They came through that thick drainage line towards Buffelshoek Dam and towards this horrific road. That always gets me. And maybe those lady lions as well, specifically the one who we hope has given birth. I thought I spotted an elephant, but I don't think I did. I may be talking nonsense. Hello, Jenna. Again, well, I don't know if this is Jenna Brown again. But Jenna, you want to know about how many lion cubs a lioness can have in one go? Well, up to 6, apparently. I've never seen that. I've heard in captivity of 8 lion cubs being born to one lioness, but I think that's extremely unusual. Normally 3 or 4, sometimes just 2, and the lioness that's at Torchwood at the moment, and where she's been keeping her cubs, she has only got 1. So that's quite interesting. So anywhere between 1 and 8, normally 3 or 4. I'd say 2 or 3, much like with leopards, is a good number to have, depending on the size of the pride, because of course it's not easy to keep them all alive, and it certainly helps if there are 1 or 2 lionesses in the pride who are lactating, and that helps them look after all of them. I wonder if this gaffer tape will take any of the hair off my face when I remove it. Anyway, we're not too far from the dam now, so we'll just pop around the corner there and see what we can find. It is interesting though, just as we sit over here, in fact no, let me go around the corner to show you, but just how the landscape has changed, how the colours have become the golden and brown colours of the winter, especially when you get onto a bit of a high point and you see over the vegetation. And yes, there's a little bit of pink and red in there, as you would expect. Ooh. These birds never sit still for any length of time. Maybe they will now. The green wood hoopoe, aka used to be red-billed wood hoopoe. Can you see the one up there, Brian? Well spotted. Oh, beautiful. Look at that. Stunning. And that long beak is a probing beak. It's for digging in the fissures of the bark, seeing if it can find beetle grubs. And that's quite a big bird, you know. That's almost a foot long with the tail. In fact, easily a foot long with the tail. That's fantastic. Amazing shot. And selecting specifically for that dead piece of branch where there's likely to be rotting wood and therefore wood borer beetles and things that have laid their eggs inside. Very nice, Brian. Just nip round the corner here and try and get a view out to the west to show you what I mean about the vegetation. Maybe. No. Yes, here we go. There, so you can, the camera will now sort of skim over the tops of the trees there. Can you do that, Brian? Or is it, have you got sufficient height? There we are. There, and what you want to be looking at there is basically not the blue sky, of course, but the brownish green vegetation underneath it. That is very much a wintry landscape, and not unattractive at all, but just very different from the summer. That's wonderful. This gives you a real sense of the space that we have here. Wonderful. Justin, nice one from you while we drive along to Bivelshoek Dam. I've now got spiderweb stuck in my microphone attachment. You say, how bad is the deforestation in South Africa? Justin, relative to the rest of the world, not very bad at all, you know, but that's largely because we don't have forests, really. There are very few actual forests in South Africa, some along the mountain ranges, which have been, in some areas, denuded and deforested so that exotic plantations can be planted, and that's a bit sad. But there are pockets of mist belt forest and sand forest that are very intact in this country, but I suspect that we haven't had, that's a grey-hooded kingfisher, and it shouldn't be here. No, it's not a brown-hooded kingfisher. It should be here. That's a beautiful shot. That's fantastic. Well done, Brian. It's one of the only colourful kingfishers that does remain through the winter time, with its halcyon blue backside. Oh, absolutely amazing. Did you notice that, everybody? Bateleur and kingfisher void their bowels on sight of me. Stunning. So that is the brown-hooded kingfisher. I should put this on my jacket now. It's starting to fall off my face. I think this is a good idea, actually, this head thing, but we may just have to modify it slightly so that it doesn't bore into my skull. Don't you think, Brian? I don't think I should have to accept that.
No, you don't want things boring into your skull.
No, having something boring into your skull is very unpleasant.
It's not a good time.
No. A very bad time. I'll have to have a word with Gendre. Justin, sorry, yes, you wanted to know about deforestation. So the country that is South Africa doesn't have sufficient rainfall to have extensive forests, and what we'd call this is woodland. And yes, there are many woodland areas that have been denuded of vegetation completely, but that's just the very nature of having lots of people in one place or on the planet generally. But actual true forest, where the canopy is closed, there's very little understory. There are not many of them around South Africa, and yes, some have been denuded. There's no doubt that they've been reduced over the years, but I think you'll find that very few of them, at least most of what we have now, is pretty safe. Unlike, say, areas of the Congo Basin, which is in the middle of the continent, where there's a lot more rain. There are huge numbers, there are huge rainforests there, and there European logging companies are doing horrible damage. Let's head across to Steph. He's got another arachnid to show you.
Alright, so welcome back to the bushwalk here. You with myself, Steph, and what we've done is we found you another patch of bush that's seemingly got nothing in it, except for one little thing that we found very, very interesting is that this little ball here is the egg sac of some spiders. And when we had a closer look and found the web, here's the web, and look at all her babies. I'm going to put my grass right there. You'll notice these little balls. Now, it might take us a bit of time just to get some focus. Dave, can you see them?
Yes.
All the little spiders, there must be close on 100 spiders inside here getting warm in the sun. And you may not think that they're spiders, but have a look when I gently, gently blow on this. Watch here. Isn't that the most incredible thing? Now obviously you get spiders that live in communities, like you get baby spiders, and obviously baby spiders before they get big enough to fly away, and I'll go into that in a second. But you do get spiders that live in communities. Spiders that live in communities are able to hunt larger things and overcome larger prey, and obviously share in everyone as a contributing factor. I don't think that this is the case. I think that in this particular case, we don't have a community web spider. We've just got spiders that have hatched at this time of the year, as unbelieving as that even sounds to me. They are spending their first couple of hours, they were probably hatched last night, spending their first couple of hours just warming up in the sun. What will happen then is these spiders would one by one crawl to the tops of these grass stems here and then balloon. They hunch their back over and they let out a stream of silk into the wind, which eventually creates enough drag on that piece of silk to whip the spider away. And that's how these spiders spread through the bush here. They go to the top of the grass, they let go the streamer of silk, and then boop, they pop off and they float into the wind. And I do know that balloons that have gone up into the upper atmosphere with collecting boxes and collecting baskets have found ballooning spiders just like this, high up in the atmosphere, far higher than what we fly the Boeing 747s or Airbus A380s or whatever the latest acronym is for these massive aeroplanes we see flying overhead. But isn't this incredible, hey? A nest of young spiderlings getting warm in the sun. There you can see them all at the tip of my grass. I'll try and see if I can put it in. There we go, into the middle of them. A bunch of these little spiders. Have a look at them all moving inside there. They have actually, in actual fact, ecdiced for the first time. These here are their exoskeletons from when they first came out. Yeah, they're all coming up to see what's disturbed. Let's see what they do. See, they're all coming to see what the disturbance is. Coming to see if it's something that they can eat. No. Wow. That is really, really awesome. Very, very glad that we could show that with you, most definitely. Alrighty. Now, it's going to take us a bit of time to get the backpack back onto Dave's shoulders. We've taken the backpack off so we can keep it straight next to the tree. And because of that, and we don't want to shake you around too much where we are, I'm going to send you back over to James.
There is an enormous pile of dung, everybody, and just behind the dung is what actually we wanted to show you. Ha ha ha! Kirsten thought we were only looking at dung. We're actually looking at a lioness. There she is. It's the same lioness, I think, that Jamie had around here yesterday evening. And I'm afraid in the background, of course, the sound of a major mining excavation going on, because we are right near Buffelshoek Dam, which is being modified at the moment. She doesn't seem to be vaguely affected by it, but she is lurking around this drainage line to the east of the water. So I've no doubt when the earth-moving equipment stops, she'll move down to the water and have a drink. I wonder if, I don't know if she
actually gave birth. I doubt she gave birth last night if she's lying here. But it's possible that she did somewhere in the drainage line, in the little sort of alcoves that exist in this dry riverbed that runs away from the dam. No, she's not doing a great deal, is she, Brian?
No.
She did look up once. Erlene, good question, to which I'm not sure I know the answer, but I think I do. You say, have the Birminghams been introduced to their cubs yet? I think they have. I'm pretty sure that a male was seen with the Torchwood female and her cubs. That's the Nkuhuma lioness and her cub. I think they have seen a male there. I know male tracks have been in and out there continuously, so I think it's very likely that those males, or at least one of the males, has met. It's his or her cub, not his or her cub, his or his brother's cubs. I'm not sure about the other ones, because we haven't seen the other ones yet, and we think that they're probably not too far away.
When you turn your head, you lose the audio.
You can't hear me when I turn my head. Okay. How's that?
That's great.
Is that fine?
Perfect.
Shall I just, maybe this?
Yeah, there we go. Now it's okay.
Now we're talking. Okay. So now, I mean, my audio won't be muffled at all.
No, no.
Yes, okay, that's the winner. Good. Let's have a look at the lions. So we've got those other two males, and basically, at least the other two cubs, we think, born to that other lioness, and we think that she's in the drainage line almost exactly where those two males walk today. So it's possible that they are actually lurking around with their new offspring there as we speak. Hello, Bruce. Nice question from you about why it is that a lion's tail has got a pom-pom on the end of it. We think that it's largely for a following mechanism. Basically, if you can find any animal out here that has something unusual on its back end, is normally sort of written off to a following mechanism. So when the lionesses follow each other on the hunt, or when they are when they're leading their cubs through thick bush, then obviously that fur ball on the back of the tail makes a big difference. It helps them to follow each other. And so we think that's why, in the same way that we think that's why they have black on the backs of their ears. We think that helps them to basically find each other when they're hunting. And while white might be more obvious, I think the contrast provided by the black certainly does play that role. And of course, you know, in the middle of summer, a lioness doesn't find it too hard, or lionesses don't find it too hard to follow each other because it's green, and that color that they are actually stands out against the green. Well, it stands out sufficiently for them to be able to follow each other, but in winter time, as we go into a time when the cover is supposedly less, that's when a lion's colour really comes into its own. When all the vegetation turns that same tawny colour, it's a really effective colour to be. And then that tail sticking up above the grass, or the black ears just filtering through the leaves, is a very effective way for them to follow each other. But she ain't doing much, this lioness. And I can't see any suckle marks on her, so I'm going to guess that those little ones haven't been born just yet. If she is indeed pregnant. I mean, I think Jamie's assessment of her pregnancy certainly looked extremely valid yesterday when I saw her. Oh, but her nipples are a bit distended. You know what? Let me move a little bit. Let me move a little and see if we can't get another view. How's the audio sounding now, Brian? Is it perfect? Does it sound crisp?
You look like a pharaoh of sorts.
A pharaoh? Good. Excellent. Do you think Gendre will be impressed with my innovation?
Exceptional.
Kirsten says I look like an idiot, Brian.
But that's rude. Kirsty is just
She is rude, isn't she?
horrible.
Dreadful person.
Now I see there. Well, no, those aren't. There's no suckling going on there. They may be a bit swollen because she's lactating. Now we know that lionesses go into what we call a state called a false estrus, and a false estrus is precisely that. When they come into estrus, their bodies produce all the hormones of estrus, and if you don't know what estrus is, it's basically heat. So in the same way that a dog comes into heat, or a house cat comes into heat. And James Richard, you want to know what would bring a lioness into false estrus? Well, it's normally other males, of course, which I think we've been through with sort of the Birminghams. These lionesses went into a false estrus period when the Birmingham boys took over this area, and because they were in a false estrus, they didn't conceive when they were first mated with. And I think that is the only situation, James, under which a lioness will come into false estrus. I don't think that there are any other sort of circumstances under which she might. You can hear a squirrel alarm calling off to the sort of right-hand side of us, which is basically behind your head if you imagine yourself in a 3D environment. It might be worth just going to have a little look there. Anyway, let's leave this lioness. She's fast asleep, doing not very much at all. Very nice that she's still here. I think it's going to be well worth coming back to visit this area this afternoon once the vehicles have stopped their excavating, because maybe those males are going to come back. I'm pretty sure the two males we saw this morning were the two that were knocking about here yesterday. Good luck, lioness. Don't get up on our account. While we get out of here and I perhaps reposition my microphone, let's head across to Steph on Bushwalk.
Can't exactly say that I've got something any more interesting than a sleeping lioness, but lions, you know, that's what they do. They're active the whole night, they sleep the whole day. But in this particular patch really caught my interest. When we were walking down here, these roots caught my interest. It's a pretty robust root. I mean, let me put my... There's an exposed root. But when you look around me, you'll see that there is no big tree close by. Have a look here. So that led me to ask the question, where does this root come from? But we followed it. So we followed it to there. And here's another exposed piece of this root. Right here. And here it is again. Oh no, that's some sand. Sorry. But the only conclusion I can come to is that this marula tree is sending out that thick roots all the way to where we're standing. And it's probably easily a good 15 to 20 yards from where this root is, which is phenomenal, to be quite honest. I don't quite know why this tree would send out such... Right here where we're standing. I mean, obviously there must be something underneath the ground over here that is stopping the roots from going down. That can be two things. Either it's too wet, which doesn't sound like it's feasible this time of the year, but it could quite easily be. Either it's too wet, trees don't like to be drowned, or they've hit some rock. Underneath here there's some rock, and the tree can't send its roots down. It has to send its roots across and spreading out over enough area so that it gets enough water and enough minerals. It's the only two conclusions that I have as to why this marula tree has sent its roots out so far. And what we'll do is we'll walk a little bit of a distance away so that you can get a true scope of where it is. I might even count it out for you. I think this is probably close enough or far enough, eh? Let me count it out for you, I'll show you. So this is the tree that I think those roots come from, and this particular root goes 12 yards away from the tree, and it's still thick. It's still this thick. Amazing. Truly just wonderful. And the only conclusion, like I said, that I can come to is probably water or rocks. Justin's just asked me how a game trail from a man-made trail. Justin, that's quite a good question. In an area where you've got lots of people walking, you could expect that some trails would be made between crops and fields, water, perhaps a shop and the local village, or a kraal or a feeding area for cattle. In areas like this, made are game paths between feeding areas and water. And the key differentiator for me would be two things: the lack of domestic cattle footprints and the lack of human footprints in an area. You just very rarely do you find domestic cattle inside. They will get preyed upon by lion that you just want.
Nessus in Vancouver. We're back again, everybody. There's been a lot of crash cutting from the bushwalk today, and that's just because Steffi is pushing the limits of what it's able to do, clearly, and we have to do that every so often just to check what's going on. We're heading towards now the centre of the reserve. We might pick up on those two males again. Nothing turned out to be shouting, or it didn't seem to be obvious what those squirrels were shouting at, and we'll see if we don't quickly get you a herd of elephants before the end of the drive. I know that there are some still at the waterhole camera. I won't ever be having my microphone like this again, everyone. It's just that I don't know why, but I find it quite amusing to have it attached to my chin for the next few minutes. Mainly because I know that the final control is rolling their eyes so far towards the top of the ceiling that they're almost going to do a 180-degree turn.
I quite enjoy it.
I know you do, Brian. I mean,
I think it's quite splendid.
it is. And thank you all for your screenshots of my pharaonic beard. Here, we'll give you an opportunity to take another one. I need to look pharaonic though, don't I?
What, yeah. Just turn your head a little bit more, get in a bit of shadow. Oh, there we go. There's more rude comments coming from Kirsty.
More rude comments. She said I'm not pharaonic, I'm moronic. She's so unkind to us, everybody. She's so intimidating. She intimidates the whole camp. Not so, Brian.
I'm scared to speak up.
Exactly. Don't say anything. Just keep quiet. Yeah. Alright, just a few more minutes of drive, everyone. I'm going to drive relatively quickly down here. I just want to see if those lions didn't pop out here. I think you'll probably find they were heading for the dam there, and then the earth-moving works began, and I think you'll probably find they therefore sort of stopped, either just shy of the dam, or they've gone past it and they're not too far from where that lioness is lying. I hope she has babies around there. I can't wait to spend a bit more time around some lion cubs. They are just so very special. And as Jamie said the other day, we were busy postulating on why it is that Karula and Shadow, or specifically Karula, is seemingly spending time so far in the southern corner of her territory. Jamie said, well, there's been a huge amount more lion activity on Djuma than there has of late. And she's right, of course. The Nkuhumas have been up and down here continuously. The males have been spending a huge amount more time on Djuma than they did for the first sort of, they've been around almost a year now. For the first, 10 months, they probably spent far more time in the last 2 months here than they did in the previous 10 months combined, I think. And so that may well have resulted in Karula just pushing south a little bit with their cubs, and also in the hyenas, of course, disappearing to Simbambili. Brian, what are you laughing at? I've got entirely used to my new microphone position now. I think I might just stick with it.
I do quite enjoy it.
I imagine from where you're sitting it must look quite amusing. I can't see a difference, of course. Yes. We'll have to have a word with Jeandre about modifying it slightly for the hat. I think we have got we're almost there. It's supposed to take out all the ruffling from the clothes, you see, which I think it did do. Yes, there's no ruffling of clothes now in this position. Maybe, yes, maybe we could chop it into a more pointed thing. All right, while we go through this drainage line, see if we can see the lions for the last time, pop across to Steph and say good morning to him.
All right, so James having to reposition and go through a thick area has allowed us to get to a nice patch where we can say goodbye to you. And so I just have to say thank you on behalf of the Safari Live crew, myself, Steph, Winterboer and Dave. We just want to say thank you for joining us on the walk today. It's been a bit on and off, but we've seen some amazing things. The scorpion that was caught by the spider and that funky worm that had that headdress on. Awesome. We were just going to say we're going to see you this afternoon for the sunset safari on the walk, and probably tomorrow morning as well. Have a good day wherever you are.
I've not heard Steph use the term funky before. Funky worm? I can't wait to see a screenshot of the funky worm. He's really loosening up his ass, Steph, isn't he, Brian? Using a term like that. This waterbuck, a little herd of waterbuck, are basically exactly where I thought the lions might have been wandering to. So clearly either these waterbuck are about to be devoured or the lions are not here. I think far more likely, given the lateness of the morning, that the latter is the case. Anyway, I think we'll enjoy our last 2 minutes with these waterbuck here. They're grazing peacefully in the sun. The white-browed scrub robins calling intermittently down the Mulwati drainage line. And it's all just rather peaceful and nice, isn't it, Brian?
So peaceful.
A couple of orioles calling, one or two crested barbets. That you can hear there is the green wood hoopoe. Remember we saw him with his bright red bill in that little flock. But everybody, if you ever feel a sense of tension and a need to let go, I've got to tell you, a winter's morning in the Lowveld like this is possibly one of the ultimate ways to unwind completely. And that's why thousands of tourists come here year after year to absorb the peace of this ancient wilderness. Now, I don't know if you're going to be with us this afternoon. I know that we are doing another rehearsal, and I'm not sure if that rehearsal is going to include you or not. But if it isn't, I am sorry about that. But we will be back to normal programming as of next week. And so... Sorry, it will be private this afternoon. Thank you, Brian, for your efforts today. A big thank you to Steph, of course, and the Thumb, and to Dave, and for the insults from the Final Control. Kirsten, thank you so much. Louise helping her. To most all of you, thank you for contributing and coming on the drive with us. We'll see you tomorrow. Stations located 2 male lions at Djuma Dam. Yes, are stacked because their ears are so much better than ours. Recognize a pattern